Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Rant About It. This episode, we're going to be ranting about Back in Action, which is a brand new comedy spy movie from Netflix. And it was a great watch. I had a great time. So let's just get right into it. We open up on this spy couple, and we don't really get to know much about them besides that the woman is pregnant. But other than that, we just assume they're a regular spy couple.
Real baby, we're running late. We gotta go.
Yeah, I'll be right there.
So they head out on an assignment and they pull up to this birthday party, and we're like, okay, it's about to get good. Like, we're about to get some spy action.
It's a kid's party.
And they put their guns away, which we didn't even know they technically had guns on them, but apparently they did, and they put them away in the car. And I'm gonna be honest, they didn't use guns like the entire movie. Basically, there was like one instance where they used a gun. The rest of the movie, every time they had the opportunity to use a gun, they put it away. They were like, oh, we can't use it here. You're a spy. What do you mean you can't use your gun? Bring the gun into the party. Like, there was no one checking the people going into the party. They just walked in. What? Eh, just walk in with the gun. So they go into the party, and this is where we find out that they're working for the CIA. And the CIA, we pop over to their POV.
Focus up, you two. Here we go. Balthazar Gore, former KGB, and one of the most dangerous terrorists in Eastern Europe.
The CIA guy is like their bestie, and he's definitely not evil. Like, the first time he pops up on the screen, your very first thought is, wow, this guy isn't evil.
I need you to blend in, see if you can find him. We can't spot him on our cameras.
They have the entire house of this bad guy. Like, there's cameras everywhere. Like, everywhere. They're literally just watching these guys walk through this bad guy's house. And I just want to know how they did that. How did they get all these cameras in this guy's house without him noticing? Does he not see that, like, they have cameras everywhere? And they're like, all right, we can see everything except for the bad guy. We don't have eyes on him. He's the only one we can't see in this entire house that we have. They missed that one spot. He's standing in the one spot they missed. So maybe they're just not good at the jobs, or maybe he does know that his place has cameras and that's why he's standing in that exact spot. But then if he's standing in the exact spot they missed, then they would know where he...
Hello, I'm Melody Lemieux.
My name is Gore. Balthazar Gore.
They go see the bad guy, and they have this like little spy tech, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so much fun. I love silly spy tech. I love when it's just like, clearly it's not real, but it's just fun. This is a movie. We're having a good time. So she does a little thing. She gets like his fingerprint or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is so great. I can't wait to see what else they got. We never see another spy gadget again. So that's disappointing. But I got nothing else for you. So they end up getting this super whatever thing that controls the entire world basically from the bad guy. They steal it from him, and then the alarms go off and they're like, oh no, and they have to fight all the bad guys. And throughout this entire movie, every time there is a fight scene, the randomest pop music starts playing. Like, it's not even recent pop, it's just like they just have the weirdest soundtrack. I get what they were trying to do. Like, they were trying to do like the cool movie thing. They try to juxtapose it against the fighting with the song that's a love song, and it's, oh wow. But they just went too far with it. Like, literally every single time there was a fight scene, we get some random music. I don't know who was making these decisions, but they were good decisions. They were good.
Get to the rendezvous point. Baron Anders from MI6 will meet you there.
So they get to the plane, and Moriarty meets them there. And
Emily!
Baron.
Thank God you're okay. I was worried sick.
Sick, huh?
He's like, yo, I got your plane for you. Don't scratch it. And we end up finding out through the brief conversation between the three of them that Moriarty actually dated Cameron Diaz like a little while ago. And he's not gotten over it. He's not gotten over it. He is head over heels in love with her, and she could not care less about him.
Enjoy the trip, Emily. Always lovely to see you.
So that was a fun interaction. They get on the plane. Jamie Foxx is like, yo, I want some champagne, whatever. Give me some champagne. He didn't say that to her. He was talking to the guy on the plane. He did not say that to her. Just want to clarify that. he was he was very kind and respectful to her. He did not demand she get him champagne. And Jamie Foxx is like, yo, let's have some champagne to celebrate our successful spy mission. And Cameron's like, no, none for me. And he's like, why not? And she's like, oh, it's just this and that. And he's like, I know you better than that. Something's wrong. She's like, okay, I'm pregnant. Okay, I'm pregnant.
I don't know what it is, but I know something's going on with you.
I'm pregnant.
And this is where we really find out that, like, these characters just say whatever's on their mind and talked so much. We could have taken an entire half an hour off this movie if the characters had just talked a little less. Just a little less. Cut every conversation they had in half. We would have learned the same exact thing. And yet they chose to just keep talking. Like, a little further into this movie, they literally like talk in circles. They're like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? Well, we have to do this. Oh, but doing that means this. Yes, I know, but we have to. Oh my god, do we have to? Yes, we have to. Oh my god, if we have to. Like, oh my god. Shut up. Stop talking. Get over it. I understand. Me, the audience, the one you're supposed to be worried about communicating to, I get it. I don't need you to go over it 4 times in the same conversation. Listen, I wasn't expecting a good movie when I watched this. I was expecting silly, goofy, spy fun. And that's what I got. And so yeah, if this was any other movie, I'd be way harder on them for wasting my time. But I watched this movie to waste my time on purpose. And you know what? It paid off because I did successfully waste time and have a grand time while doing it. So anyways, she announces that she's pregnant and she's like, "You don't have to stay. No, we haven't been dating long." And he's like, "Oh, I'm in." And she's like, "You're in?" "I'm all the way in."
I'm in.
What?
I said I'm in. All the way in.
Which kind of was gross. Whatever. So after they decide that they're gonna be parents, Cameron's like, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna hurl, like I have morning sickness already, or I'm just sick, I don't know. So she tries to go to the bathroom to like puke, and the guy's like,
I'm sorry, the bathroom's out of order.
It's an 11-hour flight.
and my first thought is, oh my god, the bathroom's out of order. That's like a bad sign. Like, oh no, this plane has been taken over by bad guys. Ooh.
It wasn't her. It was a ghost.
And she turns around immediately and she's like, Jamie, the bathroom's out of order. And he's like, and she's like, and then the bad guy behind her grabs a gun and he's like,
The bathroom's out of order.
and so they have a fight on the plane. And there's this one moment, right, where Cameron like takes like the bullet out of the gun so that the pilot doesn't get shot. And she's like, and the bullet flies out, and we get a close up of the bullet landing in like a crack in the floor. And this is where we immediately realize, as the audience, that they are going to show us lovingly, they are going to show us every single item that is going to ever be used in a future scene. Like, they are not subtle with it. It happens here where she drops the bullet and we're like, oh my god, we watch the bullet. We have our eyes on the bullet for a second as it falls into the crack. And then later in the fight scene, one of the guys picks it up and we're like, oh my god, I remember that because they took the time to have a close up of it so that we'd remember, because otherwise we would have forgot that she did that and we would have been like, where do you get the bullet? Because we're stupid. Later in the movie, when the parents are in the car with their son, listen, we're skipping ahead. You're gonna have to just bear with me. They have children eventually. And he sticks some Mentos in like the front seat, and then he gets this 2-liter pop and he's like, I'm gonna drink this whole thing. And you're like, okay. So we're gonna stick Mentos in pop at some point. That's good to know. I needed to know that. And like it just keeps happening where we'll show an item and we'll be like, guess we're using that later, and then guess what, we use that later. Whatever, it's fine. They did a great job. Whoever wrote this script did a great job. They did a fantastic job. Going back to the fight scene, the bad guys are the only ones who have guns. I don't know why, but whatever. They're the only ones who have guns, and so they're threatening to shoot, and everyone knows guns on a plane are a bad idea because the pilot always gets shot, but apparently these guys aren't aware of that, so you'll never guess what happens. So, big fight, and the plane starts going down, and then it crashes into a mountain. Oh no! The wings fall off. People are flying out. Cameron and Jamie are barely staying in there. Oh no! Oh no! The plane that crashed into the mountain has started an avalanche. So now there's an avalanche coming down. Oh no! That plane that crashed into the mountain and got its wings ripped off and started an avalanche is now heading towards a cliff. And so they're like, oh no, we gotta get out of this plane before it dives off the cliff. And so there's one parachute, and Jamie's like, you take the parachute, protect that little angel. And she's like, no, we're getting out of here together. And so they get out of there together, and she deploys the parachute, and it ends up being a hang glider. I don't know who failed their job there. Maybe that's what they have on private planes. Maybe private planes only carry one emergency hang glider. I wouldn't know. I've never been on one, so I guess that could be factual. But it seems like it wouldn't. So after they paraglide down, they decide that they're going to stop being spies because everyone thinks they died on that crash, surely. So they're just going to go off the grid and they're going to be parents. And this is when they have that circular conversation where they just keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to be parents because I'm in and I'm all the way in.
I'm in if you in.
I'm all the way in.
And I have no idea how they get back to civilization because their plane just crashed and all they have is a hang glider and they're literally in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. Like snowy mountains. I don't know. I don't know how they got away, but they're spies, so I guess they figured it out. Then we cut to present day, and we meet their kids. So we learn that their son, the 11-year-old, is tech savvy. He likes his video games and stuff.
Were you playing video games last night after lights out?
No. Yes, okay, I'm sorry.
And we learn that their 14-year-old is just terrible.
You might want to invite some friends over and we can make mocktails.
I'm studying at Annalisa's tonight.
Of course, you love studying. Well, Monday, thought we could do like movie night.
I'm good.
You're good? You sure?
She just really hates her mom for some reason. And I feel like in the writer's head and the director's head, like they thought they explained why she hated her mom. But for me, I feel like they didn't. I feel like they were just like, oh, she hates her mom because she's a teenager. Which, like, okay, I guess. But, like, also, she, like, really doesn't like her. Like, I'm gonna need a little bit more for why she doesn't like her. Because she seems fine. Like, I don't think she seems like the bestest mom in the world. 'Cause she keeps trying to spy on her kids. But they don't know that. Like, the kids are, like, not worried about it until the mom, like, shows that she's spied on them. So she has no reason to be mad at her. And she's, like, upset that her parents are keeping secrets from her. But the secret is, like, that they're spies. And she's like, you guys are just lying. You guys are lying. Like, why are you so worried about it? I'm gonna be honest, like, because they're not spying anymore. So the only thing that's inconsistent is their backstories.
Where we met.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met where we met.
Colombia. We went from Colombia to Russia.
Belize.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
First of all, I don't even know why they came up with elaborate backstories. Why would you come up with an elaborate backstory to tell your children about how you met? Why wouldn't you just come up with the most basic thing ever? And also, every time they lie to their kids on screen, it is like the worst lying ever. And it's supposed to be played up for comedy, but let's be so real right now. They're supposed to be spies. What? How are you so bad at lying if you're supposed to be a spy?
How did you guys even learn how to do that?
Your father and I took a couple of taekwondo classes.
When? When you were doing Peace Corps in Japan?
We never said Japan.
You're a spy. You're like, and even in the very first scene of that like birthday party, their bestie friend, who's definitely not evil, calls him out.
You're sleeping together, aren't you?
I mean, we're just playing our parts for the
You
mission.
guys get captured today, you better lie a lot better than that.
So, what we're starting to gather is that these are the worst spies in the world. So, I don't know. Girly Pop is mad because she's just mad. And that's all we learn about them, really. Besides that, Girly Pop does soccer and Jamie Foxx coaches her soccer team. But that's all we learn.
Not only that, Kushai Zabdrak.
What does that mean?
It means eat your breakfast.
So they drop the kids off at school or whatever, and this is where we start to realize that this is just a giant commercial. Now, movies always have like commercials in them, and some do it better than others. These guys are just like so blatant about it. Like at one point, they're like spying on their kid,
Do you see that?
See what?
She's with that boy again.
and he's like, "Where did you get those from?" She's like, "Amazon."
Listen.
His name is James, and he's 16. God, I've never seen him kiss
Where'd you get
before.
those?
What do you mean? Amazon.
Okay. Like, mind you, we already had Mentos and Coke. Now we're adding Amazon, and like, it doesn't get better. We aren't sponsored, however, by Mac because they covered up the little Mac icon on the back of the computer. So that's a big oof. Everyone gets sponsored by Mac, and you guys didn't get sponsored. Fast forward, and Girly Pop sneaks off to a club, and she's like hanging out and dancing. And her parents find out because mom snuck onto her computer that isn't sponsored by Mac and went through her text and found out where she was. And so they head over there to go bust her. And they show up and they're looking for her. Like, where is she? And mom spots her. And then she turns to Jamie and she goes, "There she is."
She's up there.
Like, who does that?
Alice Amelia Reynolds, let's go. Now.
So they go up there and they like try to get her to come back, and she's like, "Well, all my friends, like their parents don't care that they're here."
Maybe their parents don't love them. I don't know. Let's go.
Which was probably the funniest line in the entire movie. In the process of trying to remove their daughter from the club, they end up like running into these like bros who are like, "Oh, leave her alone. Like, I think she's old enough to be here, blah blah blah." And then they end up beating these guys up, which exposes them as the spies. Not immediately, but you know, like, oh no. So they go home and have a little spat, and that's kind of that. Girly Pop's still mad at them because they ruined her night.
I can't even with you right now.
Well, you're grounded, so try can't not evening with that.
The next day, our friend, who is definitely not evil, shows up and he's like, "Oh my god, you guys are alive."
How you find this?
And they're like, "Oopsies." "So what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I want the MacGuffin that you guys like stole a while ago and then, blew up the plane I had for you and all that stuff." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't have that. Actually, that blew up with the plane. It wasn't on the plane." I don't know what to tell you. Okay, well, even if you didn't steal it, if I know where you are, everyone knows where you are, so you better like run.
I found you this easily. Your enemies are not going to be far behind.
15 years
Yeah, we
ago.
don't have enemies. I sell custom puzzles on Etsy.
But before he can like even finish warning them,
For now, you and
gets shot and dies. And my first thought, as soon as he gets shot, is like, sorry, that wasn't my first thought. It was, they're literally just funny. It's not this funny. He just died. I'm done. I'm done. So he dies. And my first thought was like, oh yeah, our friend who's definitely not evil is definitely dead. And so he just lays there. And these two spies, who are hashtag the worst spies in the world, they run out and they're like, oh my God. Like, but I'm sorry, your friend just got shot, like sniped. It wasn't like boom, boom. It was like sniped. And you're gonna step outside, like you know there's a sniper who just sniped your friend. And you're gonna step outside where he just got shot? So, whatever. They don't get shot. The sniper misses, which is quite impressive. And they rush back inside and they're like, oh my God, if they found us, we have to get the kids. So the bad guys are lighting up their house and they just happen to miss our protagonists. Like, I don't think our protagonists get injured once. The most they get is like knocked out later in the movie. Other than that, they don't really get injured. I guess at the beginning of the movie too, when they got out of that plane crash, but like no one injured them. They just got injured because they were in a plane crash. So maybe that's why they're spies. They're just invincible. Like they're really bad at being spies, but they're also invincible, so it like evens out. So the bad guys are shooting at them, and I don't really know what the bad guys' plan is, because if they know that Cameron and Jamie know where the MacGuffin is, but the bad guys don't know where the MacGuffin is, how is shooting the only people who know where the MacGuffin is going to solve your problem? Because you want it. You don't want it out of play. Like they want it. So how is killing the people who know where it is going to help you get it? You see how the dots aren't quite connecting? So I don't really know what their plan is, but they fail because Jamie and Cameron are invincible. So at the climax of the fight, the bad guys gun jams and like classic, classic bad guy gun jam. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I came here for a bad spy movie, and that's exactly what I'm getting. And it's too perfect. It's too perfect. So Jamie and Cameron make it to the school and they grab their kids and they're like, let's go. We're going to the airport. And the kids are like, what? So they get to the airport and the kids are like, why are we at the airport? Where are we going? What about school? What about soccer? And Jamie just goes, oh, I think those were discontinued. And the girl goes, oh.
What about soccer? We're in the playoffs.
School and soccer is, I think they discontinued it.
What?
Like, Girly is devastated. She's devastated that school and soccer have been discontinued. It's not even like a good lie. Like, she didn't believe them when they said that they worked for the government and went to Bolivia. But she's like, oh, school and soccer is discontinued? That sucks.
Why are we going to England?
Because we're going to go visit your grandmother.
You have a grandmother?
So whatever, they get through airport security, they get on the plane, and this is where the movie grinds to a halt. Like, we are only 30 minutes in, and nothing important happens for the next hour. Like, they just sit around and talk. I don't even like, literally, if you skip from this point of the movie to like the last half hour, you wouldn't have missed anything. At least not anything that you wouldn't be able to be like, oh yeah, okay, like they must have done this, right? Because the movie is set up so simply, piece by piece, that like there's no way you're gonna be lost. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? The only thing that might confuse you, because I don't remember when he comes in, is Nigel, but just ignore him. Straight up ignore him, because I don't know either. So they get off the plane, they get a car, and they drive, and they end up needing gas at some point, so they stop at a gas station, And at the gas station, the kids are like, we gotta figure out why we're in England. We gotta figure out who mom and dad are. Like, why can't we use internet? Why can't we do this on this trip? Like, how come we didn't know we had a grandma? All this stuff. During all this, we keep cutting back to like Moriarty because he's also been alerted that they're alive again, and he wants his girl. So he's like trying to track them down, and these writers did everything in their power to make him look suspicious. Like, he had an assistant, and his assistant was suspicious of him the whole time.
Where'd you get the intel on the petrol station? We didn't have the kids' devices yet.
He was literally just doing his job and just following protocol, and every time he was like, oh my god, like, no, we're gonna do this the right way, like, let me call it in and get a warrant and stuff. And she's like, do we really need a warrant? He's like, I'm not gonna risk my job because I didn't get a warrant to go search this lady's house. And she's like every time he says anything, she's like super suspicious of him. So then you're like, okay. And then they literally try to make it look like he's getting phone calls, like he's communicating with like the bad guy, who we never even see. There's this buyer guy who's like, oh, I want the MacGuffin and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it, but he never actually shows up, and his bad guys are like the worst. Like, they get beat up so easily. So I don't even know why he was here. It literally, he didn't need to be there. But whatever, they're trying to make it look like he's calling that guy, and he's not. Spoiler alert, he's not evil. No one thought he was, because these writers were trying so hard to make it look like he was evil. And I'm one of those people that when I watch a movie or show or whatever, if the writers are so desperate to make me believe that someone is good, bad, this, that, the other thing, I'm immediately assuming the opposite. Okay? I don't care. I don't care. If you want me to hate this character so badly, I'm gonna love them. They're my new favorite character. If you want me to love this character, I'm gonna despise them. They're my least favorite character, and actually I hate them, and they're ugly and they're the worst. That's just how this works. That's just how my brain works. If you're trying to convince me that this character is one thing, just so you can turn around and be like, gotcha, this character's actually the other thing. You foolish watcher. You were tricked. Okay. So, it's very rare that I'm surprised when a character is like, actually, I'm evil, or actually, I'm good. Like, yeah, I know. So, while the parents are pumping gas, bad guys show up and they're like, we found you, and they go to pull out their guns. One thing about this movie is that the bad guys are like so bad at shooting. And I don't mean aiming, although they're also bad at that. I mean that, like, they'll have their guns and they'll be like, we're gonna shoot you, and they don't shoot. So it gives the good guys a chance to not get shot. And before Jamie Foxx makes a little flamethrower with the gasoline and this lighter that we had a close up on, which is like honestly the best thing he could have done, because everyone knows you can't shoot a gun if there's fire. The bullets, they melt, they disappear, they despawn if you shoot it through fire. So the bad guys were rendered useless, because what were they gonna do against fire? Not stand far away and shoot their gun because it's a ranged weapon. That wouldn't work. And so they're like, oh no, all we can do is stand really close to this fire and try to shoot our gun, but then we can't shoot our gun, so then we have to try to fight. But we're not the goodest at fighting, so then we get beat up, and then they get away. And it wasn't a good day for them. They were having a bad day because that was their one weakness, and Jamie exploited that really, really, really rudely and meanly, and it wasn't very nice of him. And he should have considered their feelings before he ruined their night.
Sit back, everything's gonna be okay.
Are we accomplices?
But he's not done ruining nights, because They get in the car and they drive away. They're like, come on, kids, we gotta go. And the kids are like, why are you killing people? Ah! And they're like, we didn't kill anyone, guys. Relax. No one died. But we do have to go. And so they're driving away, and then MI6 passes by them. Moriarty's like, and they're like, it was literally that one meme. They're like, oh no, we have to get away. Like, we have to slow them down. And so Jamie Foxx takes out his gun. This is the only time he shoots a gun. And he shoots, like, there's like a truck with like all these like pipes. And he like shoots the chain holding the pipes together. And so the truck skids to a stop. And this poor truck driver was having such a good night. He just stopped to get some gas. He got a nice hot cup of joe. He's listening to his favorite music. He's just doing his job. It's a late night. It's a long shift, but he's getting through it. He's in good spirits. He knows that once he gets done, he can go home to his wife and have a lovely night's rest and, just decompress, and it'll be fantastic. And then Jamie Foxx comes up on his little like SUV, whatever, and he shoots the things, and his truck skids to a shop, and all the pipes that this guy's carrying fall off all over the road, and there's no way for him to get them back on, and he has no chain to connect them, even if he could get them back on, and his tire is blown, and now his shipment's gonna be late, and he's gonna be late getting home, and his coffee spilled because the truck, and it broke the radio, and it's just like not a good night. Like, I feel so bad. True story.
Maybe I should do most of the talking.
Good idea. That way you can let her know that there's highly trained assassins on the way to her house, and you can let her know why.
They get away, and they end up going to Cameron's mom's house, and they show up, and things are tense because Cameron doesn't like her mom, and her mom doesn't like her, but also does like her. I don't know. But we get in, and they're like, okay, it's a good thing we hid the MacGuffin here, or at least Jamie hid the MacGuffin there. I completely forgot to mention that Jamie had the MacGuffin.
There's gotta be a way that we can prove that we don't have the key.
I took the key.
What? So where is it?
Fox Hunts.
My mother's house?
I forgot to mention that. That's why they're going there. Wow, I failed you. I'm so sorry. He hid it there because she was an ex MI6 agent or something like that. And she, like, her house is quote unquote like Fort Knox.
This place is like Fort Knox.
Do your children normally sniff around like this?
So there's great security there. So they show up, and the movie pauses for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes while all of them just go around like having conversations with each other, and you just have to sit there and bear it.
Still talking about me as if I'm not here. It's a habit I formed because you never are.
Here is where we meet Nigel, and I'm not really gonna explain his character. I get he was there for comedic relief, but he didn't need to. We're gonna ignore him. I literally don't care.
Oh, 4 new people. Hello, friend or foe?
It's just my Nigel.
The only thing Nigel brings to the table is the fact that he introduces the thought of, oh, being a spy is in your blood.
What do you mean?
Your parents are spies. It's in your blood.
And Kiddo's like, that's not how being a spy works. And he's like, no, it is how being a spy works. So if your parents are spies, you're also spies, kids. That's how it works. Too bad that doesn't work for, like, doctor's degrees. Because, could be rich. So the movie pauses for them to have all these conversations.
I don't hate my mom.
And I don't think she really hated me.
She said you were dead.
While they're all distracted by these touching conversations, the bad guys break in. And when I say, like, they break in, I mean they literally just jump over the wall and they just strut in. So either this place is not like Fort Knox, or Fort Knox has the worst security in the world. Anyone could have done that. Literally, they just hopped the stone wall. Like, there were no alarms, there's no guards, there's no dogs, there's no, like, there's cameras, but no one was looking at them. So I guess if no one's looking at the cameras, there's no way to know if there's someone on your property. That's not a thing that's been invented. Grandma didn't have a Ring doorbell, or she would have known that there was someone on her property, but they didn't get that sponsor, so they couldn't have used that. They can't use that. So the bad guys stroll in and they kidnap everyone. They tie up Grandma and Nigel, and they kidnap the kids and they tie them up. And the parents are like, oh my god, gotta save them. So then they go and save them. So they quickly like untie Grandma, and then they're like, okay, we gotta get our kids. So they're like, where are our kids? And they're like, in the living room.
Where's our kids?
Living room, move!
Technically, they weren't talking to them, but it kind of just sounded like they were like, where are our kids? In the living room. And they were in the living room, so, you know, it worked out.
You okay?
And so they're brought to the living room. They're like, come out here, Moriarty. We know you're behind this because our not evil friend told us you were behind this. And then guess who walks through the door?
Oh, guys.
Chuck.
Sorry to disappoint.
Yep, it's their not evil friend. And he comes in and he's like, oh, guys, I'm evil.
And as far as the men who shot me, say hello, fellas.
They're like, why would you be evil? How could you do this to us? And he's like, because you ruined my life by dying.
What does that mean? How's this our fault?
Because of you and your little plane crash and the fact that we couldn't find the MacGuffin, I lost my position in the CIA. I lost my house and my wife and my dog and my goldfish and my left boot. And now you're gonna pay. And they're like, but you're messing with our kids. How dare you? And he's like, oh, well. So they give him the MacGuffin because he's holding their kids hostage. And he plugs it in. He's like, yep, this is it.
Give us our kids, Chuck!
This time tomorrow, these two will be returned safe and sound.
And they're like, we're gonna find you. And he's like, good luck. And then they knock the parents out. Which, I'm gonna be honest, if they see that the parents have the MacGuffin on them, why are we gonna play this game of like, I'm gonna tell you why I'm bad? I mean, I know why we're doing that because it's a cheesy spy movie, and that's what we do in cheesy spy movies, is the bad guy tells us why they're bad. But why would we go through all of that when we could just like knock them out to begin with and take it? You know, like we didn't have to speak to them at all. We could just knock them out, take it, and leave. We don't even need the kids at that point. They don't need to know where we are. They can try to stop us, but they have no way of finding us. So how are you going to stop us if you don't know where we are? Like, the only reason they found them was because they had the kids. And they're like the worst spies in the world. So if the worst spies in the world can find you, it's fine. It does. It's a great movie. I'm gonna remind it. This is a great movie. I was having a great time. Like, that might seem sarcastic, but I'm being so genuine. I was having the time of my life watching this movie. It was fantastic. Loved every single minute of it. Lie. I hated the minutes where nothing happened and we just sat around talking to each other and telling each other exactly how we felt and telling and not showing. But other than that, it was fantastic.
Hostage situations usually don't turn out well.
Anyway, so they knock the parents out, and the screen fades to black. When is the last time you have watched a movie where the screen faded to black in the middle of the movie? It's so outdated. And I don't know why they did it. But that's what we got, and that was great. That was great. It made my day. So when the parents wake up, they're like, "Oh no, we gotta get our kids. How do we get to them? How do we track them? How do we find them? We have no way to find them."
We have to track the helicopter.
Did anybody get the tail number?
No, too far away.
They're like, "Great, there's no other way for us to track the kids." And then Nigel's like,
The security cameras.
Brilliant.
like, duh. No one thought to check the security cameras? Guys, you guys were supposed to be spies. The grandma's supposed to be MI6's #1 girl boss. No one checked the security Anyways, they check the security cameras and they find that their son did this to them.
Wait, he's showing us something. The thumb ring. He's wearing his thumb ring.
They're like, "Oh my god, he's wearing his miraculous alliance ring. We can track that." And so they like hack into his alliance ring and they find them. They're like, "Oh my god, this is exactly where they are right now." Which either the parents were knocked out for a very long time or these are the fastest bad guys in the West. Like they were there. They had traveled so far. I don't know which way it's fallen, but I'd like to think personally that these are the fastest bad guys in the West. So they're like, "Okay, we gotta go get our kids because they're in this exact building over here, and there's a black tie event tonight, so they're probably gonna be there then." I have no idea why they didn't like go sooner, because it was still like daytime, and then it was like pitch black by the time they like showed up there. And also, I lied. I know what took them so long. They ran all the way there. They're like, "We have to get our kids. We need to go." And then it cuts to them running down the bridge. Like, why didn't you take a car? You surely an Uber or a bus or a bicycle.
Bike, Gretchen? What bike? We don't have a bike. Your grandfather's bike.
Chose to run. Know how Grandma got there? Grandma shows up. They acted like they were surprised to see her too, so I don't know how she got there. Maybe she ran too. Maybe she's in great shape. No, she didn't. She had a car. Her and Nigel drove. But the parents ran the entire way. So they run up to this event and they're like, "All right, we gotta get our kids because they're right here." Mind you, they were right there hours ago. So either these bad guys showed up to the building and just like sat there, or I don't know. That's like the only option. Is the bad guys drove all the way there, got there super quick. They're just so speedy, and then they just sat there and waited. So if if mom and dad had decided to drive instead of run there, they probably could have gotten their kids a lot sooner. But that's okay. They didn't want to. They needed the cardio. So they go to walk into this black tie event and they're like, "Oh, there's security, so we can't have our guns." And then they get rid of their guns again because they can't have guns. And they're super spies, so there's no other way to get in other than the front entrance. And it's a black tie event, an exclusive black tie event, so you can just get in without having an invite. So all of that really works out for them, actually. So we find out that actually the kids weren't in the building. We thought they were because that's where their location said they were. But the bad guys end up pulling up after these two arrive.
Come up here. Well, we're on the manifest. I'll take that.
So they weren't even in the building. I don't know what locator they had that like predicted the future, but they weren't even there yet. So it turns out these aren't the speediest bad guys in the West, or if they are, they just couldn't find a parking spot, and so they were just like circling the building for a while because they pulled up and got out and went in the back. I don't know. I can't tell you how. I don't know. This is so bad guy gathers his crew of evil billionaires and he's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna sell the MacGuffin that controls the world. And they're like, ooh. Actually, they're not. They're like this. They're not. They're not enthusiastic about controlling the world. And he's like, all right, let me demonstrate it. And he demonstrates it, and it's very evil and good for him. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna start this bidding off, at a price that I think is very reasonable.
150 million.
Which is ridiculous. You're selling this thing that controls the entire world for 150 million? Babe. Babe, have you heard of billion? Have you heard of the term billion? This thing is worth more than 150 million. You're shortchanging yourself so much. Like, what do you mean million? No, no. We're selling this for 30 billion. $30 billion. Take it or leave it. It literally controls the world. You get the nuclear codes. You get to control that stuff. $30 billion starting off. 150 million. Where have you been? Is this like the 1700s where you think that's a lot of money? Come on now. Come on now, bro. You're supposed to be evil and smart. If these people are really rich, if they really want it that badly, they'll pay it. So whatever. He ends up selling it for like 250 million. He doesn't even let the bidding continue. Somebody's like 250 million. He's like, sold.
250 million. Yes. Well, we have a winner.
Like, you don't understand how bidding works. You don't understand how this works. They just gotta steal. No one else even had a chance to be like, I'll bid 300 million. Like, whatever. Like, 150 million? Was it? They've made movies more expensive than that. I swear to God. Like, why would you stop there? Why would you start there? But why would, it doesn't matter. I, I just Googled it because I was like, oh, like, I'm pretty sure movies have been made for more than that. Yeah! Way more than that! The highest one was like $447 million. And it was like Star Wars. Like, there's no way you're selling this for like half the price of a Star Wars movie. Babe, it controls the whole world. You got nuclear bombs. You can flood cities. You can whatever, like turn off the power grid. No one has power anymore. For less than Are you joking? Are you a very reasonable price of 150 million? Yeah, you're right, actually. He's right. That was very reasonable. It's actually more than reasonable. It's actually too reasonable. These are very rich people. And you only want I'm starting to think this is the worst bad guy in the world. I'm starting to think he's not very good. It's just a hunch though. So he sells it and he's happy. And so him and his bad guys are like, all right, grab the kids. We're getting out of here. And the parents are like, no, get back here with our kids. And so they have a little motorcycle chase. And oh, we're destroying bad guys. And the mom steals a speedboat and she's like, all right, where are you, husband?
M, 11 o'clock. Stop sign.
Come down, I'll grab you!
So I assumed, because this is a spy movie, that he's going to jump into the boat as she passes by. Like, it's going to go, woo! And they're going to keep going. But that doesn't happen. She pulls up and stops the boat. And he just hops in. And they keep going. Which is a very reasonable thing for her to do. But because of the genre we were in, I assumed it was going to be a lot more exciting than her stopping and him just hopping in and then going. It's just, the choices in this movie are just fantastic. So they speed off after their kids in their speedboat. And they catch up to the bad guys and they jump onto their ship, and the ship they had goes speeding off and crashes, and they beat up the bad guys and they free their kids, and then they throw their kids off the back of the boat, and then they beat up the bad guys some more, and then they jump off the back of the boat. And while all that's happening, Nigel is bring the floodgate back up because he's the only one who can do it at the moment. But we're ignoring him, so I'm not going to go into detail. So he ends up bringing up the floodgate, and the bad guy who was still on the boat crashes and explodes, and oh wow, we did it. We saved the day. We defeated the bad guy. Yay!
We did it! We did it! We did it!
After that, Mom decides that she doesn't hate Grandma anymore. We don't really know why. The most Grandma did was aim a sniper at one of the bad guys' heads, and that was it. Like, she didn't even shoot him, she just threatened to shoot him. So I guess that's all that needs to happen to fix a mom and daughter relationship, which is good to know for future reference. And so everyone forgives everyone and everything's great and fine, and then the kids are like, ugh, can we never do that again?
No, we will never do that again.
And so we're not suspicious that there's going to be a sequel. We're like, dang, I really like this movie. I wish there was a sequel, but they said it's never going to happen again, so guess it's never going to happen again. Sigh.
I think we can make it back in time for the big game.
And so the movie cuts to the big game, which we knew there was a big game coming up, but they mentioned soccer like twice. They mentioned it at the very beginning.
If we win this playoff game, that is due to my coaching.
And then they mentioned it briefly when he was like, oh, school and soccer's been discontinued.
And what about soccer? We're in the playoffs.
I think they discontinued it.
What?
And that was about it. And so I didn't really think we were going to see anything because we hadn't seen soccer before this. But now we do. And it's like, oh, if she scores this last point, then they win. It didn't really matter because we didn't know how important soccer was to any of them. And we still don't really. Like, they don't establish that that's like a huge part of their life. They just mention it and then we just move on. And so I really wish we had gotten more of her being upset and frustrated with missing that, or we had seen them like practicing before that, or maybe like her soccer skills came in handy at one point. Like, she knocked a bad guy out by like kicking a ball so hard into his head that he just like, you know, like something. But there was nothing, and so we get to the end of the movie and it had that little moment, and it's very sweet and it's great and it's fantastic.
You two go and take some time for yourselves. Really?
And they're like, great, sure. So they head back to their car and they get in their car and they're like,
I mean, big win, big win, big win.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, Christ, no.
and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm here because I need to talk to one of your family members. And they're like, well, just go talk to my mom then. She's literally over there. And he's like, no, I wasn't talking about your mom.
It's your dad.
Your dad?
Did I not tell you about him?
Salt and pepper's here!
And then the movie ends. And we cut to the credits where we have Marvel-esque credit things playing in the background. I was so happy. I mean, I was happy when they were like, we're never doing it again, because I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do it again. And maybe this time the kids will actually be involved and they'll have spy gadgets and maybe they'll learn how to lie. I don't know. Then they're like, we need your dad. Which is classic. It's classic. I can't wait. I can't wait for the third movie where we find out Jamie Foxx's parents are alive, and not only are they alive, but they're also secret spies, and that we have to go rescue them. I can't wait. You choose to watch this, and I highly recommend it because it's such a silly little cheesy movie. Just enjoy the ride. Like, seriously, it's fantastic. Don't expect anything. Expect the absolute worst. And you won't be disappointed because it's bad and I loved every second of it. It's definitely one of those movies where you can only watch it once. Like, I watched it twice just so that I could take notes the second time. And that I'm good. I never need to watch this movie again. That was the perfect amount of this. I can't wait for the sequel. I'll watch the sequel and that's it. That's all I have for today. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and check out these two videos here if you haven't, and I will see you next time. Bye, lovelies.
You're not going to believe this. Lord Devereaux's riding up the road on a bicycle.
That's probably good. All right.